Good morning. How are we all doing today? Tired. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I hope you're all fitting well. I'd like to start by saying a huge thank you to all those that took part in last night's Big Kins Offer giveaway. Thoroughly enjoyed it, even though, as usual, an evening show left me unable to sleep, which is a pity because I discovered yesterday afternoon that my wife is busy on Saturday morning, which frees me up to bring back, after a long absence, the Saturday Social Show. It's been months since we last did one. In fact, it's been so long I couldn't even find the original Saturday Social logo, so I had to create a new one. You'll see that online. So at 10 a.m. on Saturday, I'll be sparking up the live stream and then throwing over to you. I have no specific agenda, no issues that I'm keen to address. It will just be a free-for-all, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. And that's always an interesting one because Lord alone knows where we might end up. In the past, these unscripted shows have wound up talking about donkey ownership and drinking milk straight from a cow. I have no idea why we have a farmyard theme on these things. So please, if you have nothing better to do on Saturday morning, please join us for the Saturday Social. Now, without further ado, let's roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. My apologies if you're not getting good morning messages coming through. My Stream Deck seems to be playing up at the moment. I'll try and fix that while we're playing some of the videos. But it is Wednesday, the 23rd of August. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Caterpillar prepares for battle in robot wars. We're looking at what goes into the construction of a custom Liebherr mining truck. And we're flicking through the controls with John Deere. Plus, we have a very unusual blast from the past, a high-speed Zettelmeyer wheeled dozer. I'll tell you more about that when we get to it. We'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's peer back through the mists of time to see what was going on this very day in history. On this day in 1215, Pope Innocent III declared the Magna Carta invalid. Pope Innocent III. What was he trying to conceal with a name like that? And how on earth were there three of them? In 1847, Charlotte Bronte finished her manuscript for Jane Eyre. In 1891, Thomas Edison patented the motion picture camera. Whatever happened to that, I wonder? In 1981, Mark Chapman was sentenced to 20 years to life for the murder of former Beatle John Lennon. In 2011, Steve Jobs stepped down as CEO of Apple due to ill health. He was ultimately replaced by Tim Cook. And in 2018, Aerosmith lead singer Steven Tyler sent a cease and desist letter to US President Donald Trump, demanding he stop using the band's songs at his rallies. Well done, Mr. Tyler. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of the question of the day. Yes. I'm going to address this one first. Mick Norton says, Mark, you said it was Wednesday, the 23rd of August. It was a long night, Mick. I'm sorry. It is Thursday, the 25th of August, I guess. Thursday, the 24th of August. Stick with me. I kind of know what I'm doing. Yes, question of the day. It is confession time. Have you ever named either your car or your machine? Personally, I never have. I did buy a green car from a friend of mine once. She'd named it Kermit, and the name kind of stuck, but I wasn't responsible for it. My mum also had, weird story, my mum had a Fiat 500, the old one. My dad bought it for her to encourage her to learn to drive. She never did, but she called that car Oliver, which oddly enough is the name of my eldest son. What about you? I'd like names and explanations, please. Why? I will get to them at the end. But we've got to throw over to Chris Ford, who's just made my morning. Have you named your machine? Yes, he has. Start, you bastard. Well done, sir. Thank you very much indeed. You just improved my morning no end. Right, let's get cracking, shall we? One of the first things I was taught during my journalistic training about 100 years ago was to look beyond the story to see, basically to look beyond the story you're being told to see the story that lurked just beneath. Case in point, Caterpillar has somehow got itself involved in the US equivalent to robot wars. But as you're about to see, there's more to this than meets the eye.
It's amazing to go from an empty file to, 700 lines and just seeing everything work and seeing it play out on the field in a glorious way. Going from toying with Arduinos and microcontrollers that cost less than $5 to working on industry-level tech is just a mind blower that I couldn't achieve anywhere else except here in First, and that's thanks to Caterpillar and everything that they've given to our team. I worked at the Mossville Caterpillar complex, and I worked on site communications validation. I worked on software that tested the antennas on the machine, as well as servers that were actually on our testing sites that would listen for communication from the trucks. Seeing what we do at Caterpillar and seeing how every system works harmoniously with each other, just the same way we do it on the robots here at First, is beautiful. And it really gives me a new appreciation for what I do here and to do in my career in order to help operate these huge machines.
I'm just going to throw over to very quickly to the chat. I'm going to say good morning to Andy Dyson. Don't remember seeing Andy in the chat before. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're fitting well. You get some welcome confetti because I haven't seen you before. No idea why you're saying good morning to me in German, but hey, I'll take it any way I can get it. Good morning to you, sir. Hope you're fitting well. Again, some good answers coming through from the question of the day, and we'll get back to that. Just going back to that Caterpillar thing, though. Rise of the robots, and it started right here. Imagine that. Playing around with robot wars, but then obviously figuring out exactly how robotics work in something considerably larger. You read about it here. Well, you read about it. You saw it here first. Now, let's have some of this. Now, you might think that a mining truck was just a mining truck, that they were all created equal, manufactured to the same specification. Not at Liebherr, apparently. The company's mining division prides itself on customizing its trucks to suit every specific need of its customers and their application. Take a look at this.
With the products that we make at Liebherr, I think that one thing you can see as a constant theme is the specialization and the excellence that's tried to be incorporated in that machine. We try to distinguish ourselves as someone that's going to take that extra effort to either meet that customer's need or that environmental demand to provide the customer with a solution that other people can't offer off the shelf. And that's something that I think Liebherr has done a very good job investing in, that ability to customize the product to those specific needs.
Dedication that the Liebherr organization has provided to the employees, it really comes back full circle, back into the product and into the organization, where people are really, I think, really passionate to try to make the best products we can.
We build mining trucks, and there's a lot that goes into that. You may think that for mining, fabricating the truck, but it's accounting, from accounting to HR to, marketing, engineering, purchasing, all that ties in together to make us successful.
I'm very proud of the product we make here in Newport News and being part of the team that makes the biggest truck in the world.
I think you can get a feel for different sized cars. You can see big trucks on the highway, but I think that once you stand next to an ultra-class mining truck, it's an experience that you never forget.
I remember when I first came on board and I was hired onto the company, and I sat at my desk and you're designing something and you see this little tiny monitor and you're looking in it and you realize when you go out to the factory and they're actually assembling this piece that you make, that you spent months developing and designing, and it's absolutely massive.
It's kind of like a child in a way, when you have your own child and the first time riding the bike and you look at them and it's you taught them to do that, and it's an overwhelming feeling that come to you like, oh my God, they achieved it. That's the same feeling, I think, when you see the truck running in the mine site.
Being able to say that this was my work and this was our work together, it's unique.
We work on a product that's very tangible. We can work on it and we see it evolve on a daily basis. The ability to stay very well connected to the product has been really important for me, and it's something that I can see over time that the product has gotten better because of my contributions to it.
We're trying to be at the forefront.
New robotics, new technology, new paint systems. From where I was starting 10 years ago to where we are now, it doesn't even look the same.
For instance, our autonomy project and a lot of these projects and innovation projects that we've had, you have people who are, sowing the seeds for specific visions, and then those seeds start germinating.
I find Liebherr a great company to work for because they give us opportunity to really be creative and think outside of the box.
Keeping at the tip of the spear for technology, but also trying to make sure we ensure we have the highest quality and the products that we're going to deliver.
It's not just our local Liebherr mining community, but it's a much more global feel to it, because our direct product is being used all over the world. So we have data streaming in from Chile, from Zambia, from Panama. What we observe is that we are a Liebherr family that's all over the world. And that sense of belonging in community is what Liebherr is at. And it's nice to be a part of something bigger than me.
Now, I was going to say, maybe we could have that as a question of the day. What customization would you add to your machine? But I'm fairly sure we may have done that. Have we done that, or did I imagine it? I need to address this one from Gary Muirhead. Hope you had a good birthday yesterday, Gary. Are you sure you've not been on the booze this morning, or is it just tiredness? It is mostly tiredness, but it's also because I had the cough and the sniffles and everything else yesterday. I took night nurse before I went to bed, and night nurse does have a tendency to knock me sideways. I normally wake up and then lay there basically waiting for the alarm to go off. The alarm woke me up with a start this morning. So, yes, I'm not exactly firing on all cylinders, but at least the cough has subsided quite a bit. So, no, it's age, it's tiredness, it's night nurse, it's all of those things. Now, where are we? I'm going to throw that up because I totally agree with it. Mick Norton says Liebherr products are excellence personified. Little like myself. Well, no, let's not do that. Let's have one of these and then we'll get cracking.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I'm not getting drawn into the debate about John Deere offering its construction equipment here in the UK and across Europe. I'd love it to happen, but I'm not seeing any movement in that direction at the moment. So instead, let's just admire from afar the tech built into their machines.
We have the option on the right-hand side of the screen to change the views that are available using the bottom right arrow button. By pressing, this changes the view that is being shown to you on the screen. We can also add a new view by going to Menu, then View, going to Layout, and selecting New. Here we can add a new view and you have options to configure your views as you prefer. For example, we can select our profile view for this portion of the screen. You also have the options to add things such as a right grade bar indicator. And then also at the top of your screen, you can select steering light bar or slope light bar to display. This can be selected for the top or the bottom of the screen. By selecting OK, the options we just configured are now one of our active layouts. So now if you were to press the right arrow button, it would take you to the first screen, the second layout screen, the third one, and then our fourth and final screen that we just configured.
I've got a question for you guys. I obviously found that interesting, but it raised a question with me. I'm currently working on a computer with a huge amount of computing power, but aside from when I'm live streaming, it's nothing more than a glorified typewriter. I've got a video camera with endless settings and an array of knobs and dials, but I generally just stick it in auto mode and leave it there. So given all the controls at your fingertips on a modern machine, how often are you actually changing settings? Let me know in the chat. I'd be interested to know, because obviously when we're going to see these new machines, there's lots of talk these days about tech and about displays and scrolling menus and all of that. Do you actually change, or do you just jump in, set the revs and get cracking? I'd love to know. Let me know in the chat. Now, there isn't actually a gripe of the day today. Instead, I'm going to show you a bit of an oddity, a rare find from the dim and distant past, but that I found just a few days ago. I'm just making sure I've got it. When I was at the Estering racetrack last weekend, I was surrounded by high-tech equipment and equally high-tech cars. But lurking in the paddock and still performing a job of work was something a bit pre-tech. There was a Zettelmeyer ZD 3000 wheeled dozer. Now, plant historians will know that Zettelmeyer was ultimately acquired by Volvo, so it's perhaps appropriate that this fine old lady should be parked alongside some of the new electric-powered upstarts from the Volvo range. But before I tell you the most interesting fact about the machine, let me show you just what she looked like. You know, you have to forgive the quality of the film. I was walking on very uneven ground and I could only get around 3/4 of it. But here goes, with a little bit of German music thrown in just for good measure. As you can see, she's clearly had a bit of a tough life, but the fact that she's still earning her keep says a lot about the quality of the machine, which would have been built sometime around the late 1980s or thereabouts, pretty much when I started doing this for a living. Not this, I did that, or that, but you get the idea. So I said there was an interesting fact about that particular model. Well, according to one of the guys on the Volvo stand, good morning, Frank Schmidt, if you're watching, that machine was originally designed for the German military, and they had one very specific request: that the machine could be deployed rapidly via road. So that 20-ton wheel dozer could achieve a top speed of more than 60 kilometers an hour. So it could travel on German autobahns. Imagine you're driving along the autobahn and a wheel dozer, all 20 tons of it, with the blade, overtakes you at 60 kilometers an hour. Probably doesn't do that speed anymore because she's knocking on a bit, but they really don't make them like that anymore. If you'd like to know any more about that specific model, let me just do it right now. I've actually found a copy of the spec sheet for that machine. Very old school it is too. If you'd like to go and find out a bit more about that Zettelmeyer ZD 3000, then you can certainly do so in the chat. The gripe of the day will return, so I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your proverbial parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will be back probably tomorrow. I won't be doing it on Saturday. the whole show will probably be a gripe when we get to Saturday. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around. The Craic will begin immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Music. There we go. Just about audible. That's as it should be. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the chat because lots and lots to get through. And as I say, my stream deck was playing up this morning, so I didn't actually get to press the button to say good morning to some of you guys. Who was first off? Peter McKenna, our friend Sick Note, who is going back to work. You'll find out more about that in a second. Morning, Peter. Thanks for being here. Ken Hatcher, one of our winners from last night. I can tell you. I'll tell you what. I'm going one further than that. That's your prize box right there, Ken. It'll be on its way just as soon as the show's over and done with, and I've strolled down to the post office. Graham Footy Williams is in the house. Good morning to you, bro. Mick Norton's here as well. Good morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Andy Darvell is back with us. Good morning, Andy. Hope you're fit and well, my friend. Gary Muirhead, fresh back from his local Italian, probably filled with pasta and wine and stuff. Good morning to you. He says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Loved the live show last night. So did I. I would gladly swap those shows for these shows. I don't know what it is. I always see myself as a bit of a morning person. I'm probably at my most productive, somewhere between sort of 8 and 11 or thereabouts. But maybe I'm actually an evening person. Maybe I should actually just be doing stuff at night. Not going to be doing that anytime soon. Jim Turner's here as well. Morning, Jim. Hope you're well. Hope you enjoyed our German music together with the Zettelmeyer machine. As you can see, our stream deck isn't playing games, or it is playing games today. That was my attempt to say morning, Andy, this morning. Not entirely sure what happened there, but I'll go and give it a bit of a whack. Our friend Mantis is watching over on LinkedIn. Good morning to you, sir. Stephen Guthrie, another of our winners from last night. Congratulations and good morning to you again, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Chris Ford is in the house. He's got a cracker in a minute. Good morning, he says. Hope everyone's having a good one. Dan Cullen says, good morning, people. Nigel Williams is in the house. Good morning, Nigel. How's the podcast? Haven't checked. I'm sure I said that earlier in the week. I've been absolutely snowed under since I got back from Volvo, but I will be going to take a look to see what I can listen to over the weekend. I'm going fishing on Sunday. Perfect opportunity. Morning all, still in bed, not well. Great show last night. Thank you very much indeed, Glenn, and get well soon, my friend. Far more important than watching this old nonsense. Can't wait for a Saturday show, says Dan Cullen. Well, there you are. I've been trying, and I probably need to explain. I'm not beholden to my good lady wife, but because I spend like 12 hours a day sat in here, when the weekend rolls around, I generally like to spend as much time with her as I possibly can. Well, this weekend she has prior commitments, which means I'm free to come and have a chat with you lot. So if you're around at 10 o'clock on Saturday, please pitch up, bring some ideas with you. I'm literally going to arrive with nothing. There's going to be no video, no agenda, no specific topics of conversation. We'll just see how we go. Mark Whiting's here as well. Good morning, Mark. Your button didn't work either. I do apologise for that. Question of the day. So here we are. Question of the day. Does your car or your machine have a name? We'll come to that in just a second. In fact, we'll go straight away into, there we are. Question of the day. Peter McKenna says his car is Black Beauty. I am going to assume that your car is in fact black. Ken Hatcher says my Toyota is Flot and his Doosan is a Doocy. Okay. Flot. I'll say it one more time. Flot. How did it come to be Flot? Jim Turner, no. Jim Turner, not a sentimental type, bit like me. Listen, I can only apologise. Wednesday the 23rd of August. It was a long day yesterday. You just have to bear with me. Michael Wright, got a few names depending if it starts or not. Yeah, that becomes a bit of a theme, I think. On this day in 1814, British troops set light to the White House. We don't have to bother anymore. We have orange presidents that kind of do that for us. There you are, Chris Ford. Question of the day. What do you call your machine? Start, you bastard. Well done. Dan Cullen, old age, don't come alone. Yes, I know. There's Andy Dyson. Good morning, Andy. Guten Morgen, Mark, and everyone else. Yeah, Guten Morgen indeed. Here's a good one. Dan Cullen says, I call any machine I'm on Valerie after the song. Come on over, Valerie. Is that the... Now, let me get this right. Is that the Amy Winehouse version or the Zootons version? Just saying. I know my music. But yeah, great song. Valerie. Fair enough. Wasn't it Eddie Stobart that used to name all their trucks? And they became more and more obscure as the truck fleet grew. If anyone remembers. Peter McKenna says, yippee, back to work tomorrow. That's not how I see work. Back to work tomorrow. On the downside, I'll be out of my comfort zone. Groundwork. It's work though. Keeps the bills paid. I used to like Robot Wars. Well done, Cat. I used to like Robot Wars, but mainly for Craig Charles. Didn't have a great deal of time for the actual robots themselves, but Craig Charles was always funny. Wow, that's nuts. I think I need an operator in the cab. I think that's going back to the robots again. Gary Muirhead, once again, they should be paying you by now, Gary. He's dropped the word steel wrist into a comment again. Question today. I call my machine with the amazing steel wrist attachment the PlayStation. The PlayStation. Well done. Question today. My old Ford Capri 1600 was called Captain America back in the 1960s when I was young, impressionable, and I thought I was cool. Excuse me. Does the Capri go back as far as the 70s? Did it? I remember Capris in the 70s, and I know my best mate had one in the 80s for about 3 weeks before somebody wrote it off for him. But I didn't realise they went as far back as the 60s. Ford Capri from the 1960s. Peter McKenna, onwards and upwards. It's all a learning experience, pal. You might just fit right in. Best of luck. Yes, best of luck for all of us, I would say. Andy Darvell says, my first dump truck was a Moxie MT31, and it was named Clovis. Clovis. It was already called this by Kane Haulage. All the trucks had names instead of numbers. My old Volvo 480 High Reach was called the Viking by one of my workmates. The Viking makes perfect sense. Sort of. It's Scandinavian. Swedish. But Clovis. Clovis. If you were going to name a machine, would you go with Clovis? Apparently YouTube is playing up again. Beyond my control. Peter, all I do is throw a signal out into the ether and hope that at least some of it sticks. Mick Norton says, in the Far East in the 1960s, we had 3 old Scamble constructor prime movers that were named Faith, Hope, and Charity. Yes, I wonder if Hope was the one that was the least reliable. I bet it bloody was. Gary Muirhead, are you sure you've not been on the booze this morning, or is it just tiredness? I promise you, it's a combination of tiredness and a little ODing on the night nurse. Takes those evening shows, and I know it sounds awfully bloody stupid. Bearing in mind, I do this every day. I don't know what it is about the evening shows, but they just seem to up the adrenaline levels. So I come off of this, or I step away from this screen, go and have something to eat. And I'm just wired. And I get in bed and I'm still laying it. And I'm not playing it over in my head. I'm not thinking about how I could have done it better. I probably should. I'm not thinking about any of that. It's just that the adrenaline of dealing with so many bits and pieces just seems to freak me out for some reason. Lou Carney. Good morning, Lou. The gorgeous face of Plantworks, as we all know. Question of the day. Her camper van is called Reginald. Reginald, after her granddad. Car is Lando Norris, the Land Rover. And Pete's motorbike, Pete being her husband, is called Diego, after the character from Ice Age. Diego, Reginald, and Lando. It's a funny old world you live in, Lou. Wow, that looks awesome truck. Liebherr are the Rolls-Royce of machines. I've often described them as the BMW, but I struggle to argue that. They really are the Rolls-Royce. And there's Mick Norton echoing exactly the same sentiment. Liebherr products are excellence personified. Yes, I'm not going to say it's like me, because quite clearly that is not. Morning to the wonderful Lou Carney, ever fantastic Nigel Williams, Jim Turner, Kenneth Hatcher, and Gary Muirhead. It's a bit of a loving this morning, isn't it? Morning, Luke. Hope you have a good day, says Peter McKenna. Andy Dovell says that's just a top on screen. Not sure. Chris Ford, it's a bit like saying my excavator is a glorified spade. It is. That's all it is. It's just replaced several men with a shovel. Be honest. Let's have a look. Nigel Williams. Set and forget. Now, this was the question I was asking about all of the tech that you've got built into your machines. Do you actually use it? We see lots of videos like the one we saw there from John Deere, how to scroll through menus either on a dial on your levers, on your joysticks, or on a screen, or whatever it might be. You know, you can dial in your attachments, you can dial in your fuel setting, you can dial in everything. Do you? So Nigel Williams, who should know a thing about these, a thing or two about this sort of stuff, says set and forget depending on the task in hand. New machines prompt you to learn their most efficient and productive settings. I'm glad to hear that. That's always worth knowing. But yes, set and forget. That would be me. As I say, with a camera, with this setup, the setup for this has been exactly the same each and every day from the day I got this computer. I've literally never changed a damn thing. Mainly because I'm scared to break it, but also I know that this works. I use the revs as to what I'm doing. Low revs working around buoys, higher revs loading lorries. So yes, you're just switching between tortoise and hare. That would be my go-to as well. Apart from slew and height lock if needed, and then changing attachments, jump in, dial the power in, and go, says Peter McKenna. Again, makes me wonder just who all these various settings are actually for. Are they for the operator or are they for the manufacturer? Please discuss. It's a good question. All I do is set the power and get cracking. Digging, braking, I prefer to use my head than a computer. Yep, and I think if you've been doing it for long enough, you kind of know how it sounds and how it feels when you've got it just right. Which kind of goes over to what Andy Dovell just said. Once I've figured out finally my settings, so bloody many on new machines, I get my setup sorted and then leave it alone. Once you get that sweet spot for you, keep it. That was pretty much there you are. You're looking right now at my sweet spot. This is how it works. My El Cabelco SK180 was affectionately known as Kelly. Kelly, my sister's name. Yeah. My sister is actually called Kelly Michelle, and I gave her the second name. I was 7 at the time. 7, yeah, I'm 7 years older than my sister. And my parents, this is back in the day, when this is the way it worked. I was deposited with one of my parents' friends while my mum and dad went off to deliver my new baby sister, and they phoned up to say that she'd arrived. They were going to call her Kelly, but they allowed me to give her a second name. I called her Michelle, which she hates to this very day, and I'm fairly sure I'd been prompted by my parents over several months that was the name to choose. I don't think it was a random choice at all. Kelly Michelle Anthony Bolt, as she is now. On a machine, it's easy. If it helps if you're good with scaling drawings and working levels out, or just do as asked and you can't go wrong. Totally agree. Did Cat not have something similar? I remember seeing one in an open cast. Something similar to, is that the Liebherr mining truck maybe? Not sure. Imagines everyone dancing then. As known by sat-nav, after a while you become reliant on these components. Yeah, it is slightly odd. I always used to claim that I could find myself pretty much anywhere. Once I've seen a place, once I've driven to a place, I could probably find my way back there. And yet now I've just become entirely dependent on sat-nav. Even when I've just literally driven somewhere and I'm now driving home, rather than going through did I go left or right here? Flick on the sat-nav. Completely dependent. Let's have a look. I'd love to see that. That's some machine. I'm not sure which one that would have been. I'm guessing the Zettelmeyer probably. Incidentally, if you'd like to know more about that Zettelmeyer, it's worth having a look at the spec sheet, actually, just to see how an old school... can I show you that, I wonder? Let me just bear with me for 2 ticks. I can't show it to you. It doesn't work that way. But if you'd like to have a look at an old school from the 1980s spec sheet, go and take a look at that one. You can find the link in the chat. I always do as asked, pal. Never had anything to do with drawings. Not something you need when you're doing muck away and quarry work. No, indeed. Dan Cullen says, in my honest opinion, all this technology is making operators a little bit lazy. I think it goes back to some of the discussion we had last night about tilt rotators. There's some that love them, there's some that hate them. And personally, going back to what we were saying about the settings on this show, I like the fact that it's taken care of. Much the same as my camera. Yes, does that make me lazy? Yes, it does a little bit, but I know what I'm going to get at the end of the day. And I would say the same with machines. Yes, it might make you a little bit lazy, but it might also make your life a little bit easier. I'm all for that. I like an easy life. Mick Norton says the Royal Engineers trialled a similar Zettelmeyer dozer in the early 1960s for the same reasons as the German military. In the Cold War days, when we were concerned about being bombed by the Warsaw Pact countries and the need to clear blowdown. Yeah, as I say, this was completely, this was told to me by somebody that actually worked at Volvo at the time that they acquired Zettelmeyer, including that machine. My friend Frank Schmidt, who has been with Volvo for 30 odd years now. And he was basically saying, yeah, that was exactly it. They wanted a wheel dozer to help clear roads and bomb damage and all those kind of things, but it needed to be high speed deployment, and therefore they wanted a wheel dozer, 20 tons of wheel dozer to travel at 60 kilometers an hour. And interestingly, one of the things that we noticed when we were driving to and from the racetrack from Hamburg to Estering and then Estering back to Hamburg over the weekend last week was the number of machines that are being roaded, not on autobahns, obviously, but around the town. So wheel loaders, wheeled excavators, lots of machines on the road, darting here, there and everywhere. Very safely, I have to say, because it's Germany and what have you. But all of those machines apparently are limited to 20 kilometers an hour. And there you are, 40 odd years ago, with a wheel dozer doing 60 kilometers an hour. Probably outrun my wife's car, actually. Live show was awesome last night. Well done, Mark and Fred. I'm glad somebody spotted the Fred involvement. Yeah, some of the higher quality video came straight out of there. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says, second half of my hospital, I'll take 2 weeks off work, but we'll be sending you positive messages and hopefully you'll be able to tune in. Luke Carney, morning Peter McKenna, glad you're on the mend, bloody good to hear, she says. Luke Carney also says, I have a box to send you. Whoa, you could do some Saturday giveaways, possibly. I doubt that it's going to get here in time for this Saturday, but I'll keep that in mind. But I wasn't expecting a box, but more than happy to take it. Chris Ford, Saturday sounds like it could be a riot. I'll try and remember my riot gear and join you. Chris, please just pitch up. As I say, it is a free for all, and I always say that I've got no agenda, and this time I really mean it. I sometimes arrive and say I have no agenda, but I'd like to talk about this. I'm not doing that this time. I'm literally just going to arrive, throw up, say good morning to people, and we'll just literally see where the conversation takes us. You want to talk about the accidental death of mercenary leaders in Russia, feel free. The accidental death of Russian military leaders in mysterious circumstances, please feel free. Float as in milk float. Okay. So I'd need to go back, actually. I can't remember which of his, was it a machine or was it a car? It was a Toyota, I think, that he calls Float. Thank you. Flot didn't make any sense to whatsoever. Andy Dyson, Zootons, see, we know. Zootons, yes. Eddie Stobart did, yes, and every year had a competition for fans, and they call a truck after that person. I may have mentioned this before. I don't know if anybody else is on the road enough to have been a member, but there used to be an Eddie Spotters Club. Does anyone remember that? May still exist. I honestly don't know. But you basically signed up to become a member, and you basically collected names. As you saw Eddie Stobart trucks on the road, you would collect their names, and I don't know if there was a prize involved. It was just a bit of fun when you were on the road. Old mate of mine, sadly no longer with us, Larry Davis. God bless him. He was a full-time salesman, so he was on the road up and down the motorway all the time. So he was an Eddie spotter, and unfortunately, Larry was taken ill. He was taken ill several times with cancer. Well, the cancer ultimately got him, but the first time he had it, he was taken to hospital, and I'll bore you with the details of the rest of it some other time. But his old colleague actually reached out to Eddie Stobart's company and said, we've got a keen Eddie spotter in hospital at the moment. And they sent him a big bouquet of flowers and an Eddie Stobart get well soon card. Nice touch. Should have a few more of those sort of companies around the place. Dan Cullen says, Andy, is that Andy Kane that you worked with? Cane haulage? I think it may be. My old Moxie dump truck was called a Poxy Moxie. I don't think that was unique to you. I think a lot of people called them a Poxy Moxie, but well done. It takes me 25 minutes to fall asleep due to an app I have. I get 4 hours sleep, 1 hour deep sleep. That's it in the last 3 weeks. Couldn't survive. Okay, Andy Dovell has just said it wasn't a top-on screen, it was top-con screen of the John Deere. That's what I meant to say. Thank you very much indeed. I should have joined the dots, but I didn't. Question of the day. I stand corrected. My Ford Capri Captain America was late 1970s vintage. As I say, I know nothing about cars, but I do remember the 1970s and the early 80s being very much a Capri era. I always keep power in power. Is that plus? To get better hydraulic flow and more sensitivity. Feeling on the levers. Yes. I want to say ribbed for her pleasure. I don't know why. You get the idea. The wheel dozer I was on about. Thank you very much indeed. Dan, work smarter, not harder. You see, I know I always talk about COVID bringing to an end my journalistic career or my writing career. It's exactly that. Do I want to sit here and beat a keyboard all day, or do I want to just pitch up and have a chat? I'll pitch up and have a chat if that's okay with everybody else. The last vestiges of this cough are starting to bug me now. Right, people, enough of this idle banter. I'm going to go and do something far more useful. I'm going down the road to deliver some not deliver. I'm going to post some packages. So Ken, watch your post. Stephen, you too. Anybody else that won last night, your packages will be on their way forthwith. I will send them first class to get them there nice and quickly. So hopefully you should have them by the weekend. So if you are planning to join us on Saturday for the Saturday Social, please let us have a photograph sporting some of the goods that you receive through the post, assuming they arrive in time. Everybody else, go and have a fantastic day. It's chucking it down with rain here, but I hope the sun is shining on the righteous. Speaking of which, I had a message from Al Grierson this morning. Bright sunshine at the Stone Expo. I'm deeply jealous. I hope he's having a fantastic time. Hope he also comes back with lots of excellent footage as well. Maybe he'll be kind enough to share some of that with us. Everybody, go and have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow, and I will also see you on Saturday. Until then, have a good one. A couple of things. Okay. Did you ever find out who international operators are? It's a group on Facebook, and I've sent them a message, but they are 1 million plus followers. So they're a big old deal. Not entirely sure where they're based. I got the impression they may be American, but I'm not entirely sure. But either way. So I've reached out to get their address. And you also asked the other day, Gary, about the Kobelco SK1300D that's made its way to Australia. It got stuck. Not the machine. The machine's absolutely fine, but it got to the port at Darwin, and they didn't have the right equipment to offload the damn thing. So it is due to arrive in Gove ahead of its assembly at some point next week now, apparently. So I would imagine Liberty Industrial are probably spitting feathers right about now. beyond the control of Kobelco. I'm sure they did everything that they were supposed to do, but the port at Darwin just wasn't equipped for dealing with that size or type of cargo. So I'll keep watching this space. Now, the Royal Engineers Gainsborough military special wheeled shovel dozer in 1959 could achieve 33 miles an hour in 10th gear and weighed 16 tons. Wow. 1959. I'm not going to give away too much, but Mick Norton's actually written quite a bit about the Gainsborough military special. Maybe he'll be good enough to share that with us at some point. I think he's actually talking to a magazine about sharing that at the moment. So as I say, I won't give the game away too much, but there's a cracking article out there if you're interested. Tap Mick up privately and maybe he'll be good enough to share that with you. Right, I've already said goodbye. I'm going to say it one more time. Go and have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.